Alright guys, so I've had my coffee and we're back now. Just before I get my breakfast, we'll continue. So I fixed my networking issues. I'm not sure if it was just, it was a DNS problem. It's almost always DNS, just keep that in mind. So I've managed to sort that out, and just to simplify things, because this is just a test lab, I've removed the other two network cards because it's not necessary for this purpose. And I disabled the NIC teaming because it's not really, this is just a test lab, so it's not a live environment. In the past I've had two NICs in a team, and then I had one dedicated NIC for my backend to connect to the server and data transfer and so on. So in the meantime, anyway, we've got our static IP now on our network, our host, our Hyper-V host, right? Okay, so we could see now we've sorted out the DNS, and we do have, in fact, internet connection. As you see here, we can just jump into Wikipedia, no problem. So we do have network connectivity. And also, you can also see that I've got my switch redone now. As you can see, my web server is running. So the virtual switch, I created a new one, okay, and now that's going to be connected and shared with the host, the Hyper-V host, which is your main bare bones server. Okay, so we're sharing it with our connection here. Okay, and we could see that we also have a static IP now on our web server, and that's all running correctly. Okay, and we can just go onto our web server here, and as you can see, we do have all green, and we have our static IP like we should. All right, and we'll just double check here. Okay, so we have our network connectivity and all that stuff. All right, it is public for the firewall at the moment because we're not connected to an Active Directory or anything like that. And if you guys want to know how to do Active Directory, we'll probably make another video a little bit later on, but for now let's just stick with this because I do want to get my breakfast. So and just to show you, we don't have a lot of space. I mean, we got just about 40 gigabytes of disk space, which is an NVMe drive, of course. Even though it's a virtual disk, it is on a NVMe drive, M.2 on PCI Express 16, so it's quite quick. And as you can see, if I just jump into Firefox here real quick again, we'll just jump into Wikipedia. As you can see, we do have access to the internet. Okay, and all the updates have been installed. You're gonna get security updates all the time. That's just the way it is, right? I mean, you're gonna get your updates all the time. Okay, so everything's good to go. So the first part of this is basically setting up the machine how you want it, with a standard install. And like I showed you before, setting up the virtual machine when we installed it in the last video, it's the same thing when you're doing any virtual machine. You just go through the same steps of setting up your parameters for the VM with your memory and your virtual disk and all that stuff, and then installing the operating system, Windows Server 2016, and then going through the configuration options like we discussed earlier. Okay, so and that consists of setting the time, setting the remote desktop so you can remote in, okay, and also setting static IP, all right, and the name. Now we can go ahead and actually close this, and as you can see, I can minimize this right now, and I can just go to remote desktop, and I can just go and type in web server, okay, and it's gonna look for it. It can't find it, of course, because we don't have Active Directory or anything like that, so we're just gonna type in the IP, and we're gonna add a different account. Obviously, that's my email. Please don't spam the shit out of me. Okay, so we're gonna go as administrator, and we're gonna type in our password. Okay, and we can remember ourselves. Okay, we're gonna get a certificate, so just yes. Okay, so now we're into the remote desktop, and you may get this funky sort of interface at first, but it will eventually you know, repopulate back to what it should be. And this is the great thing about remote desktop, and this is kind of why I go with Windows Server, because it's just, the ecosystem is just so easy to get into. And like I said, I'm on a ThinkPad, right? I mean, I don't have like, you know, a super fast computer, you know. I'm just on a basic laptop plugged in, you know, a little bit of memory, right? Recording and doing remote desktop. All right, so as you can see, we're in our server manager here. We're into our web server, right? Okay, so maybe just to save some resources, I'm just gonna close this one down for now. Okay, so first things first. So as you can see, we have now this, like I said, this is a fresh install, so there's a few things that I may have to do along the way to you know, as far as the configuration, but it's like a bare bones, this is it, right? You know what I'm saying? There's like, this is a fresh install. So let's get to it. First things first, what do you need for a web server? It's pretty simple. Add roles and features, next. Role based, next. Right, select a server, next. Okay, and what you want is this web server right here. Okay, next, and you're just going to use the defaults. It's real simple. Next. Okay, so it's just, you just go with the defaults, right? You can take some time to read this stuff, and for now let's just go through it. And there's some additional services and stuff, there's some additional role services that it needs, so just go with the defaults, but you can select some additional things here if you want. There is some stuff you can add, for example, like FTP, right? And then you've got some management stuff and scripts and tools and so on and so forth. So for now, let's just stick with the defaults. Okay, and we'll restart if necessary. We're just going to hit install. So it's just going to go through and install everything. It doesn't take much time, and then we'll go through the configuration of how to set up the WordPress onto this site, and how to get it all going. Now there's a few additional configurations that you may have to do. For example, you have to have a domain, obviously, that you own, and you have to be able to go into your domain provider and, you know, point your domain, the DNS, to your server, and you can just simply point it at your public IP, and it should automatically route you know, to your web server. If not, you may have to configure some port forwarding, which is not a big deal. Basically, you just tell your domain to go to your public IP, and then from there on your internal router, there's some port forwarding there. So if you have to, you can just port forward to, you know, the HTTP and HTTPS traffic to this internal IP, because this internal IP it can't be seen from the outside, obviously, because even though it says we're on a public network, we're actually behind our firewall and behind our router. This is our internal private network. So for example, if you type this in right now, you're not going to see my server. You'd only be able to ping me if you knew my public IP address, which isn't really a big deal. And you can use a static IP. It does not have to be, you know, you don't have to go and buy, you don't have to buy a static IP from your provider. You could just use the dynamic one they send you. I mean, they recycle it every so often, but I mean, you might get 6 months out of it. And you know what? If it does change after 6 months or a year, it's not a big deal just to go and change a couple DNS records and whatnot to get to your IP. Anyway, got that all done. That's all set up now. So let's just go ahead. You just go into the tools here and go into the Internet Information Services Manager. Okay. And this is your web server. It's up and running. Okay. And of course you've got your sites here. You've got your default first website. Now we can just browse this empty website for a sec. It's not going to show anything except what's within that. We're on localhost, of course, but the file space for the web server is going to be here in this file space, the inet pub, so internet public, I'm assuming. And you have your www root right here, and this is what you're actually looking at. So if we double click on that, you know, that's the page that we just saw. Okay, pretty simple, right? So let's say we want to add a website now. So all we have to do, you need a domain. So I just have a domain that I have. So let's just go through the process. Pretty simple. Add a website. So, you know, right click, add a website, the site name. So we're gonna do RyLab, a physical path. We're gonna make a new physical path in that init pub. Make a new folder. We're gonna call it www RyLab. Okay, and we'll put XYZ because we know it's gonna be XYZ after, and we just go okay. And that's where our file space is going to be. You can even test and see if it's all good. We're going to assign it to our IP address, right, on port 80. Okay, and the host name is www.rylab.xyz, and that's a domain that I own, and you can use any domain. Okay, and we can start the website. It doesn't matter. Now, as you can see in here, we can also edit some bindings here. Let's just do that right now, because right now it's on www.rylab, so we're also going to add just rylab.xyz, okay, to save us some time. Alright, so it'll listen on both those addresses. Now, we want to install some WordPress on here. It's pretty simple. So as you can see, if we go back into our C drive here, our init pub, there's our root directory. It's empty at the moment. So all we have to do is we have to get some Windows app installer. I can't remember what the name is right now, but it's for let's see, where is it? For IIS. Oops. IIS. Where is it? Web platform installer. There it is. So basically, it's from Microsoft. It's free. You need the Microsoft Web Platform Installer 5.0. So I'll leave the link to that in the description of the video. Anyway, let's just download it. We're going to save the file, and then we're going to install it. So basically it's just going to install some prerequisites that we need for our WordPress. So it looks like it's all done. Alright, so we can just go up here and close this momentarily and come back. Go back in again. We should see now that if we go to our website there, we should have an option right here. So what you want to do is you can click over here, install application from gallery, or you can just double click here. It doesn't really make a difference once you have that. But you do want to make sure that you've highlighted, you've selected your domain. So for example, if you do it there, if you do it here, it's not going to work on your website. So you actually have to be on your domain. Alright, pretty simple. Lots of stuff you can install. There's all kinds of products. I mean, you know, you can just go through the list. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that that you can install. All kinds of tools, databases, frameworks, right? Applications, all kinds of stuff. Now, in the past, WordPress is funny. You know, there's all different kinds of applications you can install, different things you want to do. If you want to do like a wiki, or if you want to have like your own blog, help center, whatever. There's all kinds of stuff you do. So let's just add the WordPress. So we don't have MySQL, so I'm just gonna make a root password here that I'm gonna remember. We can talk about MySQL later if we have to go in and do some stuff with that. So there's some stuff that isn't installed, so let's just see if it'll just, sometimes you get an error, sometimes it'll download the stuff that you need and install it, and sometimes it won't, and then you might have to go and, you know, configure some stuff. But usually it'll just install what you need and the first shot, and you can just get your website up pretty quick. Now, the first time I did this, it took me a few days actually to figure it out, tons of reading. So I just decided to make this video, you know, for my friends to you know, so they can install a web server on the servers that I build for them. So as I said before, I do build servers and you know, design them specifically for the needs of the client, and most of the time I do water cooled servers. So it's kind of cool that you can make a server fairly cheaply, you know, even water cooled, and you know, throw on some Windows Server operating system, and then, you know, install WordPress, host your own websites. I mean, you can pretty much host a lot of websites with a limited amount of bandwidth and resources, even from your home office or from your office. It's pretty easy to do, and it saves a lot of money, because, you know, it's quite expensive if you you know, get into, you know, hosting with like GoDaddy or something like that. I do host my websites now with GoDaddy because you know, a lot of my equipment, it gets sold, and you know, in the past though, I did host a lot of websites in my home office that I could set up rather quickly. You know, you could buy a domain and host a website. So I mean, for someone who wants to make some money on the side hosting websites, if you got a good stable internet connection, I mean, you know, why not? I have gigabit internet with Rogers, so it's pretty good. So now it installs MySQL and everything, and it should configure all that stuff for you. Like I said, hopefully this time for this video we don't get any errors or anything like that, because I do want to go get my breakfast, so I'm kind of hoping it's just gonna set it all up for us and it's gonna work just fine. So if there is something missing, we may have to go back and install some of the stuff that it's missing, but we'll try to keep this video short and to the point. I do tend to sidetrack sometimes, especially when I haven't had my morning coffee. So And again, you know, I hope this video can help you guys out. You know, like I said, it seems daunting at first, but really it's not once you kind of get the hang of it and you do it a couple times. And it's all about learning, right? I mean, you can just try to do it and experiment and set up your own home laboratory, and you know, it's just kind of fun to be able to put it all together and get a website up and running on the internet for the world to see, which is pretty cool. So, and of course there is some security aspects and things like that you have to be concerned about, and of course I can talk about some of those things in another video. You know, you can set up your domain you know, to work with intermediary like Cloudflare or something like that for DDoS protection and stuff like that. But I mean, most of the time, if you just got a website that's just informational, you know, you can set up HTTPS and get your own SSL keys and stuff like that, which is more advanced. And this is just a regular HTTP website, so there's no encryption with this. So that would have to be another separate video, of course, because it would take quite a bit of time to get all that stuff organized and set up. So now I do recommend though that normally in a production environment, obviously this is a lab environment, so in a production environment your bare bones server, you know, your bare metal server really should only have Hyper-V. That's the first layer, and that's all it should have is Hyper-V, right, as the host. And that's the way that it's designed. You can install additional roles, but it depends on, you know, your situation and the hardware that you have. Now, secondly, if you're going to have a web server, you really should have, if you're going to be in a production environment, you should have Active Directory, you know, and some domain controllers and so on, because, you know, not just from a security aspect, but just ease of use, you should really have an Active Directory. We'll probably do another video at another time with setting up an Active Directory server and you know, getting that configured. So at the moment, as you can see, we're not connected to a, you know, we're on work group, right, which is just my internal network. We're not connected to any Active Directory, right? We don't have any Active Directory right now. So, but Active Directory is recommended, so just keep that in mind. Now this takes some time to install. It's just kind of got to go through the process of the installation, and again, this is just for a lab, so I mean, if it doesn't work the first time around, we can always come back and try again a little later on. I'm hoping it's gonna work the first shot this time. Like I said, sometimes it works the first shot with no issues, and it'll install and everything will get done just right, and bing bang boom, it's done. Other times something will go wrong, or it'll be missing something, or it'll need something additional to get it to work, and we'll just see what happens. I'm kind of hoping that it's gonna work the first time around, so just got to give it some time and let it finish. So you can see we're not really using much memory, not really using much CPU either, so it's probably installing the MySQL at the moment, and that may or may not go off without a hitch. We'll see. So now it may fail, and if it does, we might have to go and install a few additional things to get it to work properly, but I'm kind of hoping that everything's going to work just fine. Alright, so it looks like it's good. Now here we're going to select our website. Now if you see people online that have WordPress after their website, it's just because they didn't have this option here. So all you got to do is just get rid of that, and it'll install the WordPress right to the root. Just go continue. Now it's gonna ask you for these authentication keys, and this is where it becomes a pain in the ass. And basically what you got to do is you have to go to the internet, and you have to go to WordPress, installing on Microsoft IIS WordPress codecs, and this is also where there's some instructions on how to do it. And you can go through this because it basically goes through all the same stuff that I just went through. Now there's one part of it where it's going to ask you for these keys, and there's this cool website where it gives you these online generated keys. Now it's not going to work the first time around. You're probably going to have to go through this process a couple of times, and like I said, it is a pain in the ass, but that's just the way it goes. So you're basically just going to copy and paste, okay? And you got to go through each one, and you can't alter these because and it has a certain format that it has to follow, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a sec. Alright, oops, lost our place there. So we're on our nonce key, so let's get our nonce key right here. Like I said, I'm doing this on a ThinkPad, so my screen real estate is not the best. Let's get our next one here. And like I say, there's a certain formula for these keys, and apologies for taking so long to do this. It's kind of, I'll try to speed it up a little bit. Now, it never works the first time. And this is usually where people get discouraged and they're like, oh man, and they think that it's not going to work. However, persistence is key in this situation. Now you hit continue. It might fail and it might give us a warning. Now see how it went like that? Now it failed, so we got to go back and we got to do everything all over again. Alright, we're going to go continue, and now we got to do it again. So all you got to do is refresh, and you'll get a new set of keys, okay? And we got to go through that process all over again. And you want to get inside the, okay? Again, we're going to do the same thing. It's a little bit tedious, but as you'll see, once it works, it will be all worth it in the end. So let's try to quickly copy these keys over. Okay, we get these keys here. Hopefully this video is not taking up too much space on my ThinkPad. Unfortunately, my keyboard is not ideal for this copy and paste process. However, we will get through it together. Okay. Let's keep going. A couple more. Like I say, there's a formula for these keys, and it never works the first time, but it will usually work the second time around. Now what you have to do is it won't accept $signs, so what you got to do is delete those and replace it with a capital S. Okay, click continue, and it'll go through and it'll read the keys and it'll give you a chance to fix them. So you just kind of look at it and see where those $signs are, change them to a capital S, which is recommended by the developers at WordPress. I believe it's in the instruction manual somewhere online. It does say that somewhere, because it took me a little while to figure it out, and then I finally figured it out. So you kind of just go through and fix all that, and there you go. Now it's going to start the installation process, and it's going to install WordPress. Now, of course, this is all in a private environment, so we're going to get some information in a second that we need to copy and paste and keep it in a safe place. So I normally keep them in a location where they're safe and backed up online, and I can refer back to it later. So what I'm going to do is just put rylab.xyz so I know which website it's for, and we're going to paste that stuff. And basically, this is your database name for MySQL, the database user, and the database password. And you need to save this because you may need it later on in the future. I'm just going to click finish. Okay, now that crashed on us, which is fine. Who knows why? Sometimes it happens. So all we got to do is go back down here and browse on. Let's try to. Now what we need is, let's try to get this going here. Now we should have, sometimes we have to restart the server, so let's just do that. And let's go and try to browse here. Now I usually use Google Chrome. I'm kind of hoping that now it could be that I'm trying to use Firefox, so let's just try this one here. So it says it's waiting. It could possibly be that our DNS is not configured properly yet either. So we're just going to type in WordPress admin and see if we can get it to initiate the let's see. Now normally it'll take us to the setup page. It doesn't seem to be doing that today. And like I said, this is normal. Sometimes it just won't work. So let's just install Google Chrome for shits and giggles, because it's actually the first time I've tried to use Firefox. Let's just download Chrome and see if that helps us. I'm not quite sure. We may have to reboot the server. I also just configured my DNS, so it's possible that it's not pointing at my the proper machine. Okay, so we got Google Chrome on the go. So let's just try this again. Let's just try to use Google Chrome and see if it'll work this time. Now normally you get like a pop-up that says, you know, like the final installation steps and all that. So it's probably, right now we're probably getting a domain error, like DNS or something like that. So we may have to go and try to fix that. So let's just see. Yeah, so it's timing out anyway. It shouldn't matter though. It should this is what I mean. Sometimes it just doesn't, you know. Let's just go and check our MySQL. Chances are we probably have to reboot the server, so let's just go ahead and try that, because sometimes, I don't know, sometimes that's just all it is. And also, we're gonna, let me just configure if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's 61. Alright, so if I'm not mistaken, it's a good possibility that I have to do some port forwarding. So let's just do that right now. So let's just do HTTP. Oops, 61 it was, right? Let's see, 61, yeah. Okay, so we're just gonna port forward to that for now, because that's probably what it is. Usually I do port forward to the server. So let's just see. Oh yeah, we've got to fix that too. So if you install Google, you have to fix that Google update, because it won't do it automatically. So just set it to manual, right? Okay. All right. So it should be fine. Let's just try to get back into our configuration there. And like I said, worst case scenario, if it doesn't work the first time around, we'll come back and we'll try it again. So there may be something missing here, and that's what I'm thinking it probably is. So let's just go through here and add some. I think I know what's missing. We're probably missing some services that we actually need. Let's see. We probably need to install this HTTP redirection, which maybe. We probably need to install we forgot to install our CGI. We probably need some of these, and we'll install ASP.NET, and I think that was all that it is. Let's try that. Maybe we'll just install this hostable web core too. I know there's a few things that we might need, but so we'll just go through and see. We didn't get any errors, but sometimes I'm pretty sure it's just the CGI that we needed. So let's just go ahead and check that out. And of course we have our, let's see, just let that finish. It'll just take a second. Sometimes you forget things. It's a part of getting old. And lack of food, and only 1 cup of coffee. So that's probably what it is. I need more coffee. Alright, so let's just give this a second to finish. Just close that for a moment. And like you could see here, if you go into here's your root right here. So we do have everything that we need. But we still have to go through the final steps of the WordPress installation, which sets up, you know, the administrator and all that sort of thing, and we'll get that done here in a second. So that's done. So let's go ahead and close that. Do a quick refresh here. Get back into our, let's just restart our web server just to make sure that everything is good. Alright, now I'm kind of hoping we have our CGI there. We should be able to just, it should go through, hoping it'll go through this time. Let's try. There we go. So it was the DNS and port forwarding. So you're going to come to this window here where you get the install. Just continue. Your website title. So I'm just going to call it Rylab. User, you can put whatever you want. I'm just going to put my name. This password here, obviously this is for, I'm going to be deleting this or changing this later, but you can just paste this down in here. You could just put WordPress admin or something like that, and then just put the password there and save it. And like I said, I usually upload this information to, you know, an app or something, you know, then you put your email. So I'm just going to put my company email. Obviously this is all going to be deleted later anyway. And then you just hit the install WordPress, and it's going to go ahead and go through this final installation. You're going to log in. Excuse me. We're just going to put our username and password that we just pasted there. It should still be in our clipboard. Let's just try and see. Let's log in. Excuse me. Alright, there we go. So we could just save it for now. Alright, so we're in our WordPress admin there now, and you know, so you can just go through the process of, you know, updating WordPress and all that kind of stuff, and whatever and what have you, right? Now if you want to just, obviously our site, we could just go and check it out. It should be on the internet now, so let's just check it out and see if we can find it. So rylab.xyz, let's just see if it'll populate. We might have to put the www. Oh, there we go. So it's already live. Like I said, it's pretty simple. You know, here's the website, right? So I mean, you know, you can just go in and we can change this. Okay, so this is our first post, so we can actually go into our pages, right, and we could change this sample page. But before I do that, we can actually just go through the settings here real quick. General, you know, we can delete this, just another WordPress site, and we can just put you know, Canadian technologies or something like that, right? So you can configure your time of day. So we're in Toronto, so we're just gonna go down through and find Toronto. It's here somewhere, it's right here. Okay, you can configure all that stuff. Week starts on, day of the week if you want to change it, so you just save that. Alright, writing, you could just go through here. Default post category, so if you want to make another category, we can go through that a little bit later on. Reading, this is what determines your static page. So for example, if we want to set it to that sample page, we could set the front page there, save. Discussion, right? So comments, you want users to be registered and logged in to comment. Normally I put manually approved comments because, you know, there's douchebags out there. They're gonna say some dumb shit, and you just don't want that on your website, right? If you do enable you know, discussions on your website and what have you. Okay, so just make sure you save those settings, your media, right? So your thumbnail sizes and so on and so forth. Permalinks you don't want to touch, because if you follow the directions, you should have set everything up correctly, and you know, it should be based on, you know, your post, right? So we're gonna change it to let's see, we're just gonna leave that for now, because I think that's all fine. So we could see if we go to pages here now. So if we just jump back in here and refresh this, it's gonna, the changes we just made are actually gonna be live, as you can see, right? So we got Canadian Technologies, and now we've landed on that sample page and what have you. So, you know, you could just go into this sample page, and it's all dynamic. So I mean, if you change this to, you know, welcome or something like that, right? And we can just, you know, put something here. Under construction, whatever. Okay, and update, and you can see it's all dynamic. I mean, it will update in real time, and it's quite fast. So as you can see here now, you can see it's under construction, right, on our welcome page. And like I said, you can just, you know, install themes, whatever. I mean, it's a basic website setup, right? And there you have it. You know, you can log out and you can just close this down. Now, I do it this way because it's simple, right? You could just close all this stuff now, it's all good. But I mean, if you take this, you know, password right here, okay, you know, you could log in here as well, right? So you just, same thing, WordPress admin, and then you can log in, okay? And you know, it'll ask you for your username and password and what have you, and you just log in. You can edit the website from anywhere you have internet. Okay, so that's basically it. That's how you set up a, you know, a web server and have it running, right? It's pretty straightforward. Okay. And it doesn't matter if you put www or not, because we fixed our bindings, right? So, and that's it. So that's how you set up a self-hosted website. So for now, that's about it. So if you guys want some more videos, or you know, some more content, or some, you know, some different stuff, just let me know. I'll try to put some information in the description below. And hey, if this video helped you out and you like it, just hit the like button and subscribe. I'll try to make some more videos and, you know, cover some more topics with Windows Server. Possibly in the series I'll do some on Active Directory and different things like that, depending on the time that I have. Again, we can talk about MySQL and stuff like that, and, you know, setting up servers. I might make another video setting up like an ARMA server, ARMA 3 server or something like that, because a lot of people play video games online still, and that's kind of what got me into this sort of stuff, was, you know, game servers. So I'm just gonna let this go ahead and update, and that's about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, that's fine. Until next time.